Drew? Sorry about that. It's a one-man show upstairs with the recording and everything at the moment. And so, anyway, you would open your Bibles to John chapter 13. John 13. And once you have found your place there, I would invite you to stand. John 13. I want to apologize right now. For the past week, my contact in my left eye tends to turn sometimes, and so it will blurry. So if I skip over some lines in the Bible reading, I'm sorry. Just apologize to you up front. It's not that I'm reading out of a different version. My contact. So as long as I'm alive and breathing, KJV is going to be it. But John chapter 13, we're going to start in verse 21. It says, "When Jesus had thus said, he was troubled in spirit, and testified and said, Verily, verily, I say unto you, that one of you shall betray me. Then the disciples looked one on another, doubting of whom he spake. Now there was leaning on Jesus' bosom one of the disciples whom Jesus loved. Simon Peter therefore beckoned to him that he should ask who it should be of whom he spake. He then, lying on Jesus' breast, saith unto him, Lord, who is it? Jesus answered, He it is to whom I shall give a sop, when I have dipped it. And when he had dipped the sop, he gave it to Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon. And after the sop, Satan entered into him. Then Jesus said unto him, That thou doest quickly, or do quickly. Now no man at the table knew for what intent he had spake this unto him. For some of them thought, because Judas had the bag, that Jesus had said unto him, Buy those things which we have need of against the feast, or that he should give something to the poor. He then, having received the sop, went immediately out, and it was night. And therefore, when he was gone out, Jesus said, Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God be glorified in him, God shall also glorify him in him, God in himself, and shall straightway glorify him. Little children, yet a little while I am with you. Ye shall seek me, and as I said unto the Jews, Whither I go, ye cannot come. So now I say to you, a new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another as I have loved you, that ye also love one another. By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye have loved one to another." Father, as we gather this evening, Lord, I ask that you would empty me of my sin once again, Father, and empty me of myself, and fill me with thine Holy Ghost, that I may preach, thus saith the word of the Lord. Father, I ask that whatever may be buying for a time, that we will put it aside, and we will focus on your word tonight, Lord. And I know if we will do that, we will get something, Lord, that we can apply to our life, Lord, and we'll be sure to give you the honor and glory. For in Christ's name we pray. And thank you. May we see us, God, the blessed reading of his word. In the middle of it, it just went blurry. And so, and when I was in college, they said, and when we were in practice preaching, Brother Sam Davison said, you need to read, whatever you're going to preach, you need to read at least 50 times so you have it memorized. And I don't quite read it 50 times, but one thing God has helped me with is when I read something over and over, that it does help put it to memory. And so I almost had John chapter 3 memorized when I was doing the Baytown Jail ministry, because I could almost quote it word for word. But anyway, I want to speak to you tonight on the subject of there's a traitor in the midst. There's a traitor in the midst, and we're talking about here Jesus foretelling what's about to happen, that he's about to be betrayed. And so Jesus, as we talked about last week, Jesus did something that slaves that are Jews don't even do, right? That as washing, that he showed the the ultimate show of service, the ultimate example of what it is to be a servant, that he was willing to do what no one else is willing to do. That's a servant. That's what Christianity is, right? It's being a servant. And so, if I were to ask you today on your bulletin, because on the back there's places where you could take notes, I would ask you this. If you could name 5 things, if you could write down 5 things, what is Christianity? What would you put? If you could write down, Christianity is this, and name 5 things. Some, and some would say, well, Christianity is, doing certain things, or not doing certain things. Not going to the bars, not doing this, or not doing that, or some of them would be certain standards that Christians have. That Christianity is this, having to go to, or going to church, or worshiping God. But Christianity, if we were to label it, it wouldn't be things that we do, it would be things that we are. Beatitudes, right? We're talking about beatitudes. Christianity is beatitudes. And as at the end here, as Jesus talking to his disciples, he says, love ye what? One another. Love ye one another. So, and we know that Paul says if I can speak the tongues of angels, right? And if I do all mysteries and I don't have what? Charity, which is love, I am as what? Sounding brass? As tinkling cymbal? He can have nothing. If we're going to write down anything what Christianity is, the very number one thing is love. We are to love one another. And unfortunately, we have that flesh that pops up, and we want to not love one another. We want to take everything and make it all about us, the I generation, right? I don't call millennials, I call them the I generation, because it's all about me. And it's always somebody else's fault, not my fault, right? And so, when we look here, if you're taking notes, Miss Charlene, number 1 is Jesus tells of his betrayal. We see verse 21 through 25, it says, and when Jesus had thus said, he was troubled in spirit. Now, why would he be troubled? Because he knows what's about to happen, right? In spirit, and testified and said, verily, verily, I say unto you that one of you shall betray me. Now, these are the people that Jesus, he chose, right? He chose them out to be disciples, and he's looking at them that's in that room there, and he says, one of you are going to betray me. Can you imagine to be a fly on that wall? When Jesus is sitting there with his disciples, the one he's been with for these 3 years, these 3.5 years, and he's like, one of you, the one I've trained, I've taught, I've given you everything, I have spilled my, everything out, I have taught you, and one of you are going to betray me. And could you imagine the silence? The disciples, my eyes would be like, kind of like Peter, He was like, I'm not going to do it. But no, I would like to be a fly on the wall to see the disciples' reaction. He tells of the betrayal. He goes, one of you are going to betray me. Now, even though one of them is going to betray, he knows who it is. The other disciples don't know who it is. But he knows who it is, and yet he is still in there with them. Now, when somebody betrays us, that's it. I'm not talking to them. Right? I'm not going to have anything to do with them. They're betraying me. They said this or they said that. They're causing trouble. I'm not going to have anything to do. That's what we do as human beings, right? Flesh. But Jesus, here's another example. Even though he knows who's going to be, he knew he was going to betray me, he still loved him. Think about that. He still was treating him no different than he treated the rest of the disciples. One of you will betray me. Then look at verse 22. And then the disciples looked one to another, doubting of whom he's speaking. They denied it. They're like, no. No, we would. Nobody, and none of us would do that to you. When people are involved, as I have said this several times, ministry would be great if it weren't for people. But no, without the people, there's no ministry. But no, we wouldn't do that to you, Jesus. You're the Messiah. We wouldn't. Nobody in here would do that. And they doubted of whom he spake. Then they doubted. They're like, well, let's find out who it is. They wanted to know who it was. And now there was one leaning on Jesus' bosom, one of the disciples whom Jesus loved. Simon Peter therefore beckoned unto him that he should ask it should be of whom he spake. Now, how many of you have seen that painting of Michelangelo that he painted? Now we know that's not an accurate representation, right? Not an accurate representation. It's a beautiful picture, but so we have here John leaning on his breast. Now that right there is a common thing. We can't look at that and think and let our mind go into the gutter. Okay? And so Peter wasn't next to Jesus, right? Because if Peter was on the one, if John was on one side leaning and Peter was on the other side, he would have to, and that's what he's doing. So Peter's off in the distance, beckoning, saying, "Come on, who is it?" Not trying to make a scene. Kind of like when your wife says, trying to figure something out. And so Peter's over here beckoning. Find out who it is. Because he's wanting to know who it is because Peter always opens his mouth and inserts foot. And so Peter's beckoning and finding out who it is. So what does John do? Lord, who is it? What he does, he asks Jesus who it is. And he then lying on Jesus' breast saith unto him, Lord, who is it? So they deny it, then they want to know who it is. And so Jesus tells them who it is. Jesus, number 2, reveals the traitor. Jesus answered, He it is to whom I give, or shall give, a sop when I have dipped it. And when he had dipped the sop, he gave it to Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon. And after the sop, Satan entered into him. Then saith Jesus unto him, That thou doest, do quickly. Now no man at the table knew for what intent he had spake this unto him. For some of them thought that he had the bag, so we we're going to go and do some things, give either to the poor or go and buy stuff for the feast. But did you see? The disciples did nothing. He revealed who the traitor was, and the disciples did nothing. When I was reading that and I was sitting there meditating on the scripture, I'm sitting there thinking, man, why wouldn't they do something? If Jesus is telling his disciples who it is, and they see who it is, why aren't they going to do something? Well, what the scripture means. But I'm sitting there thinking in my mind, there's no way I would take you behind the woodshed. I would. If I was one of those disciples, that would want to make me get in the flesh and take him behind the woodshed and teach him a lesson or two. But the disciples, they did nothing. Come and Jesus, when Satan entered in, right? Jesus said, what you're going to do, do it. He knew. He knows what's going to happen. And so Jesus runs out in the evening, and he's revealed. Number 3, Jesus gives, now that Judas is out, and he gives a new commandment. Now that the traitor is out, he's gone, out from the midst of him, he teaches once again. Look at verse 31. Therefore, when he was gone out, Jesus said, Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified. If God be glorified in him, God shall also glorify him in himself, and shall straightway glorify him. Little children. Now he's calling them his children. That is an endearing term for him. Right? Little children, yet a little while I am with you, ye shall seek me, and as I said unto the Jews, whither I go, ye cannot come. So now I say to you, a new commandment I give unto you. So he says, listen, God's going to be glorified and the Son of Man is going to be glorified. How is this going to happen? Jesus and God is going to be glorified through his death, his burial, and his resurrection. This is how the glorification is going to happen. He says, God, this is going to happen now. I'm going to give you a new commandment. And this is what Jesus says, a new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another as I have loved you, that ye also love one another. He says, by this, look, he says, by this alone, that people will know that you are my disciples, doesn't he? By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye have love one for another. He goes, this is what to show what Christianity is. They're going to know that you're my disciples, that you're a Christian, that you're a believer by your love for one another. This is what Jesus is saying to his disciples. This is how the world is going to know that you're my disciples, that you love one another. Because out here, it's man eat man out here. That's the way it is. And they don't care who they step on. Doesn't matter how nice you are. Doesn't matter how good looking you are, Brother Roy. It doesn't matter anything. He says, this is how all men are going to know that you're my disciples. And that love is agape love. That's not the kind of love we say, I love the burger at Whataburger. In English, love is love. It's just one word. We're talking about the agape love that the Father has for us. We are to have for one another. You mean when somebody stabs me in the back, I'm still supposed to love them with the way the Father loves me? Yes. This is the commandment that Jesus put. That we agape love one. Even though I pick on Brother Roy a whole lot, he's still supposed to love me. No, I love Brother Roy. I would give my a third kidney for him. You know? Oh. Yes, even when we offend, even if someone offends us, we are to love them. This is a commandment from God to his disciples. To us, if we are his disciples, we are to love one another no matter the situation. That doesn't mean we skip church because so-and-so's going to do that. That doesn't mean we're going to skip this ministry because so-and-so said this about me or to me or offended me. No. You're not serving in that ministry because of so-and-so. You're serving in that ministry because of God. You are serving God. You're not serving because so-and-so did. And if that's the reason you're going, it's not the right reason. You're serving because you love God. You may get your door slammed in your face, knocking, doing visitation. You may doing new moves. Whatever ministry you're involved in, it doesn't matter. I've been cussed out from our youth. I'm still going to love them. I've had members of the come and yell at me. I still love them. It's not up to me to get things. If they've done me wrong, that's God, you take care of it. I will love like you tell me. I mean, I like it. But I'm going to love. By this, the world will know that you're my disciple. brother sees me at Walmart working all the time. Unfortunately, he has to go to Walmart and work on a few things. Let me tell you, some of those people at Walmart are hard to love. But I still love them. I'm still going to treat them right. Because God commanded. If we were to sum up Christianity in one word, it's love. L-O-V-E. Agape. There is a traitor in the midst of the disciples. Jesus chose and knew this was going to happen to get him. Yet he still did what he did with those 3 years. Let me ask you, if I knew Brother Roy, if I was going to pick out some people that and I knew Brother Roy was going to do that, you think I would choose him? No. But Jesus still did. Die out. Horrendous death you and I have the opportunity to have everlasting life. Hereby God says, God is glorified, and the Son of Man is glorified. So what's about to transpire? I'm not going to get into the conversation that he has with Peter, but as a footnote, can you imagine him telling Peter, you're going to deny me 3 times tonight. By the time tonight, this is over, but by the time tonight is over, you are going to deny me 3 times. Can you imagine? If you knew that somebody was going to deny you, if your child was going to deny you in front of everybody, all these other people, even though Peter was going to deny him. Peter even says some filthy language on one of them. There's a traitor in the midst. And Jesus still loves. Biblical Christianity is love. Listen, you want to know if you want to see what true Christianity is, if you want to be a part of true Christianity, then get out of your seat. Go to someone who has offended you, or you have offended, and go put your arm around them and tell them. That is biblical Christianity. That's hard stuff. That's hard to do, right? But that is biblical Christianity. If you want to show this world what biblical Christianity is, then you go do that. If you've offended someone, you go and you eat the crow. You tell them, I'm sorry that I do that. I love you. You meant it all that. That's what biblical Christianity is all about. About to give up the office of God. He's about to be being betrayed, being sold out, still taking love. It doesn't matter what's going on in yours or my life. We can still show love. Doesn't matter. Jesus says, love ye, who you are. That's what ye is, y'all. Y'all love one another. Crawford Baptist Church is to love one another. We are not supposed to act like a law. As Jesus winds up the earthly ministry is coming to a close, we need to take this commandment and make it a priority of the church. Love. That's That's what he gives us. For he's according to being afraid. Love one another. Father, as we conclude tonight, I know we're loving one another when someone has offended us is hard. Father, but you have given us the greatest example in your Son. Lord, in the midst of the betrayal, Lord, you still love. Lord, in the midst of being beaten, dying on a cross, you still love. Father, I pray that we would take this great example of love and we apply it, Lord, to our own life. It doesn't matter what's going on in our life. It doesn't matter who's offended us. It doesn't matter what's been said. But that we should love. Lord, and if there's things going on, Lord, if somebody has said anything to anyone, I pray that we would go to that person and get it right. Show biblical Christianity. Other people. Father, if there's someone here that does not know you, that they're not 100% sure that if they were to die today, heaven would be their home. Father, I pray in your invitation that come forward, that they will show them how that they can know that if their life were to be taken today, heaven would be their home. Father, we be sure to give you honor and glory for Christ in his name. Amen.
Have thine own way, allowing God to have way, direction in your life.